Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, Suzanne Sorenson was in our studio recently, 20 plus years in senior care, and her topic was on the subject of dementia and Alzheimer's. If you missed that conversation, catch it now on the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs. Well, folks, she is back, Suzanne
Amen.
Sorenson. Suzanne, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It's so happy to meet you.
Cracker here. Nice to finally meet Teresa. I've met Jerry before, but I'm blessed again to be able to be here. So thank you.
Well, God bless you. It's just truly, I can relate to a lot of what you're going to say today. So I'm going to sit back and just listen and glean from your expertise.
What I touched about last week was, as an adult child or children, my family went through the fact of denial, not knowing what my mother was going through with my dad having dementia. As things progressed worse, him losing his job, he started to hallucinate, he started to wander, he started to get aggressive, waking her up all the time. We didn't see that because Dad was great on the phone. It was always like, oh, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. So that's why I called it Denial is Not the River of Egypt, because as adult children, if you're not there all the time, you're not seeing the things that happen on a day-to-day basis that a spouse or somebody that lives with somebody that has started that progression of memory loss may be doing. So the behaviors start to change. The routines start to change. So my mother would say, well, you don't understand. He's taking a knife and he's slicing napkins, or he's starting to make coffee without the water in the coffee maker, or he's going into the garage, but he's playing with electrical, So how does a spouse or a child redirect that behavior without getting somebody really mad at them is another thing I want to talk real quick about today. Having her go through that transition to where it was no longer for him to be safe at home, we did have to put things into place. And one of the things that didn't work was an aid, which we tried. But when you have somebody that's very upset and very mad, and they understand that they have dementia and they're going through it, it can make them even madder, because it's very frustrating when somebody says, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you do this? And don't you remember? And then that frustration grows, so that aggressiveness can go a little bit bigger than you want it to go. So Dad, for his safety, because of his wandering out in the desert area, we had to move him into a community. My mother had a different type of dementia. So hers wasn't Alzheimer's per se, it was vascular. And I called her the happy dementia. But there was things we had to put in to safeguard her for staying at home, because she was no longer able to live by herself. So a few of the things I want to talk about is, how do you take away the car, which we had to do for both parents. So first, with Dad's situation, he had a little red sports car, and you try to take that red sports car away with his little choo-choo hat on, and say he can no longer drive that car. Good luck. It was a trial and definitely difficult for my mother, because we were in California. She was in California. We were in Connecticut, and she's trying to take the car away from my dad. And I finally said, "You got to disconnect the battery. You got to, hide the keys, disconnect the battery." So he would try to get my mom's keys and try to take her car. The hide the keys situation happened. Later with my mom, I used the excuse and said, "Mom," when her dementia started to progress, if you can pass the test with the auto club, we're going to take you to the auto club or a driving school, and if you can pass that test today and you can reverse the car, you can park, you can parallel, you can make a right and left-hand turn okay, then you can keep driving, because at that point it was an advanced dementia. But unfortunately with her dementia, she would forget to do certain things or just get busy and fall. So her vascular dementia led her down a different path of, now what do we do about safeguarding the house for her to stay home safely as this progression changes? What can we put in place? So some of the things that we did is put a grab bars in the house everywhere. So Mom would fall, and she'd fall down to the floor, but there's no grab bar on the floor. How are you going to pick yourself up?
You need
off
that
the floor
to push
when you don't
yourself
have
up.
the upper body strength. So I had grab bars, believe it or not, 2.5 feet from the ground. And then we put long grab bars in the hallway, because we know them as wall walkers. When dementia starts coming through or your body starts to break down, you don't have the strength to do what you used to do. So putting grab bars even in a hallway, like a long grab bar, not just a little grab bar. Into the garage, having a grab bar, into the shower, a grab bar. The other thing I absolutely recommend if somebody's still in that position where they're safe to stay at home is do a fall detection system, which they call it the life alert. I've fallen and I can't get up, one of those things. Well, guess what? The fallen and I can't get up didn't work for my mother for the first 2 types because she'd have to push the button. Until we got a true fall detection system, when my mom hit the ground, it called. So we had a key that was outside the house hidden. The company knew where the key was, and they can go in and rescue her because my mother would hear in the background, "Tony, do you need some help?"
That's what was my question.
So
how are
Tony
they
would
going to
say
know
yes.
to push the button?
They don't have to push the button. So the problem was the other things just weren't working because she just didn't wear them. But this one, she understood she had to keep it on. They do have wrists, and then they have necklaces. And they're waterproof, so you can wear them in the shower because a lot of injuries happen
fall
in the shower.
shower.
Right. So sure enough, my mother had been in the backyard, hit a rose bush with her foot, kicked it, broke her shoulder. Needed shoulder replacement. I get her out of rehab because every time you're under anesthesia with memory loss, it pushes it further. It makes it harder to recover. So you'll see sometimes the escalation of the memory loss going faster than you thought. Get her home from the rehab. The next thing I do, I'm visiting her, out there in California. I turn around after a month in rehab, get her to try to make her coffee. I turn around and all of a sudden, boom, she hits the floor. Back on her back, compression back fracture. So the system, because she had her fall detection system on, said, "Tony, do you need help?" I'm like, "Yes, call an ambulance," because I'm there on the ground with her and I'm not touching her. So
You got to get a cyst to lift.
Yeah, so we got her up, back to rehab, compression back fracture, another couple weeks. Next thing you know, I've got an aid in place at this point because I could not handle this alone, dealing from out of state. So the task of finding an aid, that's another story we're going to get into next week. How do you get the right help and when is it time to make the move? But we had an aid in place at that point to help her to get to doctor appointments, to bring in help into the house. So the other thing that helped that aid help mom stay safe in the house was what's called a bed alert. And people go, "What's a bed alert?" So when you go to the hospital, they could put a bed alert under your butt to make sure that you're not moving. When you start to move, they know you're trying to get out of your bed. And a lot of times they what's called park a patient in a rehab or hospital close to the nurse's station because they know that they could be a wander or a get up and I'm going to fall and nobody sees me kind of patient. So we did what's called bed alerts. They're thin little pieces of plastic that has an alert inside, a little alarm, and then you've got a monitor. So the monitor stays wherever the aide or the caregiver is. Mm-hmm. But as soon as mom started to shimmy her little behind, beep, 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 and then the aide would go into the monitor, "Tony, sit back down. Yeah. Tony, sit down." Because even if Cindy was in the shower, Cindy was required to open the shower door because she was taking her 3 hours. She was working 3 days straight. And then I had a second aide 3 days straight and a third 1 day. So Cindy, when you're taking a shower, that door's got to stay open. So I need you to watch that camera because when you hear mom move, you got to see what she's doing. So Tony, sit down. Tony would sit down. So that works. The other thing that bed alert does at night to help out, because we had 2 bed alerts, is we had one under her butt in the bed. So when because mom liked to get up to go to the bathroom every night, right? Well, that's another thing I'm going to suggest is you cut off the liquids at 7 o'clock p.m. Because once you start drinking...
This way, they don't have that urge to go to the bathroom.
The urge to go. So mom always had that urge to go. So I said, no more. I said, it sounds cruel, but she wants to wet her whistle. You put a little drop of water next to her nightstand and she can wet her whistle. That helped on decreasing getting up at night.
And if you'd like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. I'm Jerry Williams for the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.